Good morning. Welcome to spend the next hour or so with Nixu this morning. I'm the chairman of the board and have been the chairman of the board for the last 10 plus years. So I know something about the Nixu background. We have here our CFO Janne Kärkkäinen and Hanna Raitanen from our communications, and apologies, our CEO had to leave last night after our board meeting for family reasons. He took the train last night for 400 kilometers, I think it's about that way, towards northern Finland. He will be with us over the phone. So his body is not here, but his mind and his voice and ears will be with us. Sorry for that, but Janne, as the CFO, will take care of the presentation, and then we will do our best to answer your questions. And to my understanding, there is about 40 people listening to us. 60 people listening to the webcast at the moment. So we will try to do our best to also handle your questions. Okay, Janne, go ahead.
Thank you, Kimmo, and welcome on my behalf as well to the Nixu's 2017 financial results release event. So my name is Janne Kärkkäinen and I'm the CFO of Nixu. So let's get started, and we keep the digital society running. Let's correct the technical problems. All right, is it working? Good, all right. So, excellent. So, we keep the digital society running is our mission that we are very, very proud of. And as we all know, the digitalization of the society is going forward with the ever-increasing speed, and during most of the days we can read from media different types of also breaches relating to the digitalization, and that's certainly an area where we want to be working and making the world and society safer by supporting safe digitalization. Last year the growth speed increased, and with the spearhead of our continuous services. So our last year revenues grew by 50%, and the growth was quite stable with both organic and non-organic growth being like half and half organic and to non-organic growth. Our continuous services grew even much faster than the average growth, so clearly over 100% the growth rate, and in the second half around 150% growth with our continuous services. Our EBITDA grew by 37%, being around 1.1 million euros. Our adjusted EBITDA was closer to 1.4 million euros. So the EBITDA was really also suffered because of the fast growth and development in the international operations, and we've started the stock exchange transfer preparations that we have announced earlier, and also our investment to the development of the technology-based services, and also the technology-based services still being in the fast growth mode, which kind of reduces the margins on that area. Some of the highlights of last year, so managed security services driven by Nixu Defense Center, as said, that really grew very fast and is now presents around 7% of our revenues. And also the Cyber Defense Center started also in Sweden, so especially towards the end of the last year. And obviously the non-organic growth SafeSide acquisition in the late 2016 obviously supported our growth figures in last year, and then the two other acquisitions that we did last year with ESSC and Bitsec. And our aim is to move more towards larger and more comprehensive as a service type of offerings instead of just doing one-time projects. And we had our first internal event and summit, Nixicon 17, last year, which was a big success. And obviously now with the international operations growing, it's of course important to also bring people together and make this one Nixu family to work as a one team. And also we raised capital of around closer to 10 million euros last year to further support our growth plans. Our vision still to be the trusted go-to partner in Northern Europe, and to be best place to work for cybersecurity professionals, and that's obviously those two targets are very much linked together, because you cannot be the best partner unless you have really the best people and you are able to recruit and keep the best people. The strategic cornerstones are internationalization, and obviously there we have been growing fast during the last 2 years. We have done 4 acquisitions and growing in the international markets, and now our international revenues presents around 37% of the revenues. Also, the development of the scalable services, and there the Nixu CDC, the Cyber Defense Center, is certainly the spearhead service there, which has been now successful in the markets and growing fast. And the best cybersecurity team, as said, that's really the cornerstone of the operations. And our mid-range targets are 15% growth of revenue and 10% EBITDA levels. Internationalization, as said, there we have some red spots where we are located presently, and as said, the revenues outside Finland presents now, or presented last year, 35% of the revenue, and outside Finland, Sweden and Netherlands being the main markets, but also operations in US and outside Europe as well. Then some takeaways regarding the Sweden markets. So there our operations are based on these 3 acquisitions that we have done in Sweden market, the Europoint, SafeSite and Bitsec, and now like officially Nixu Sweden, and all of these operating under Nixu brand, and our operations there are almost 70% team. So with that size of the operations, we are one of the biggest players in the Swedish market, which otherwise is quite scattered. Also transition towards as a service and project delivery model, whereas in Sweden market is a lot about the higher resource hiring type of players in the market. So we want to be moving towards as a service type of offering. And Nixu Cyber Defense Center also move forward with the CDC offering in Sweden market, and that already has started, and especially towards the end of the year that plan moved on. And obviously we want to be a solid number 1 cybersecurity partner and player in the Sweden market. Perhaps I will check at this point if we have Petri on the line and something to add to the first slides, but can and we
Yes, hello everyone. This is Petikainen, and I'm over the line, so I guess I'm a kind of spiritual leader right now, not present physically, but over the line. And sorry for not being able to be there, but then it's carrying on nicely. But I'm available for questions. I guess right now there is not much to add. I guess on the internationalization rate, I guess there was a wrong figure still on our slides, so I guess we corrected. It was 37% was our internal revenues, so revenues outside of Finland, if I remember
35
correctly.
was here already corrected. So
okay.
That's the right figure.
Okay, good.
All right,
So
good.
Please carry on.
Yeah, and please let us know if you have some comments to add. So then
I'll speak over you then.
Yeah, yeah. All right. And then Benelux market takeaways, brand recognition of Nixu has remained slow. Obviously, the Dutch markets being the biggest, at least in our main focus areas, at least compared to Finland and Sweden, and of course to make your voice raised there needs more efforts. But that's something that we are certainly working towards. Acquiring ESSC helped us to boost the brand recognition anyhow on the other hand, and also building a larger operations in the Netherlands. And now the both teams have joined together and are working in the same office, so integration have been moving forward. And recruitment in the Dutch market, we have been quite successful on that, but now it's not the full capacity yet in use. And focus with our digital or with our Benelux operations is now to move more towards the digital identity markets, and we see some markets on that area. New sales-oriented markets. So as said, we are also present in US and now even more presented with the ESSC that has also an office in the US market and also customers there. So that has increased our US-based revenues. And but some limited success with opening new clients. So of course it's a big market, but at the same time very competitive and needs certainly a big efforts to win new clients. Also China, we continued also there with our existing clients and the Chinese customers that are willing to enter European markets. Of course needs support how to meet the European cybersecurity standards.
If Janne may add here, I guess here it's good to remember that as it's really hard to categorize USA and China as part of the Northern Europe, which is our strategic context, we regard China and US as more opportunistic markets where we are not that much present with local delivery capability, but we do have a sales capability, and the idea is that if we can port work there, so it's an opportunistic thing, and we are not the investments into these markets are not very sizable at the moment. So let's see how we can build up the presence with kind of minimal effort.
Yeah, thanks, Petri. That was certainly a good addition. Then to the scalable services, and there with the certainly the Nixu Cyber Defense Center being making most of the operations on that area, high growth with 168% growth, and was really the highest growing area from our four kind of revenue streamlines that we have started to report from last year. And the other areas are projects and assignments and license revenues, and then continuous revenues. So, but about the Cyber Defense Center market, that has been very active, and in Finland we have a very good market position, and we have been very successful in the market and winning most of the contents that bid contents that we have participated. And Sweden market was already slightly commented, so we have now entered the Sweden market, and especially during the last quarter of last year, we really started to move on with our CDC offering in Sweden market. And also the IoT is of course an interest area in the modern world, and first cases to monitor the IoT devices has as well started, and is interesting area.
And if I may add here, again, the kind of for the Cyber Defense Center, we are again seeing the effect of increased breaches driving the market recognition for these services. And for example, the market entry to Sweden, I have to say that it wasn't maybe that planned entry, because it started happening very fast by the end of the year, by lots of incidents happening at our existing clients. So the clients that we were serving through the existing Swedish operations, they started having incidents, and our incident response team from Cyber Defense Center jumped in. For example, during the Christmas time, we had one incident where our team had worked with the client and having operations globally, and we jumped in and deployed the Cyber Defense Center capabilities to these clients as well. So now we are kind of getting in through incidents happening, which obviously is a very nice way. The sales costs are typically quite low in that regard. So good entry and very nice clients in that regard.
Yeah. And so
maybe Petri, you could open up the IoT part a little bit also.
Yes, so the IoT part is the kind of the traditional CDC offering is towards the internal IT networks of our clients and their servers and computers and digital services. We've already performed ICS monitoring, so meaning the factory automation networks and the factory automation networks within our client companies. So we've done both of these environments. But what we are now seeing is a increased demand towards monitoring of IoT devices. So when our clients are digitalizing their business model and adding intelligence to their operations, they tend to have lots of devices on the field, and the monitoring of those devices, they are computers after all, but they tend to have certain requirements, and the amount of these devices is much higher than in a typical internal network. So it presents some added challenges for the monitoring, but obviously we see this as a very nice opportunity for a, let's say, premium service provider like us to meet the demand that actually probably commodity providers can't meet. So this is an area that we are actively looking right now. IoT in general as well is under a very how would I say, radar right now when we are refreshing our strategy.
Good. Thanks, Petri. Moving on from Cyber Defense Center to new services that we are also looking into. These are just a couple examples that are really in the planning, piloting mode, but just to show a couple examples are the multi-factor authentication service that we are planning and piloting, and also the consent as a service and both kind of linking to the digital identity business and also the consent as a service, especially with the GDPR regulations. So those are just to name couple scalable services in the piloting and planning phase.
And this Petri, if I may comment, so the kind of what we want to give an understanding to you online is that the scalable services is a strategy piece of us that is larger than the Cyber Defense Center alone. So Cyber Defense Center has been the first implementation of that strategy, but we see the need to add further scalable services towards other service areas that we currently have. And we are constantly obviously looking about the client needs and finding out what the needs are. And these are examples of services that we have planned and piloted with a very, very agile manner. So there's not heavy investments included yet, because we want to see how how the market response is and so on. But if we see market traction, these could be areas where we build up next lines of scalable services business. And the multi-factor authentication is a component where you have this. So you are not only using your username and password when coming in, but you also get the token to your phone or something like that, and that's like a technical component that needs to be implemented somehow. And lots of our enterprise clients have a needs regarding that, and we are building that service on top of a third-party technology, but making it provided as a service. So that's our strategic intent. We are not inventing the whole service ourselves, but relying on a third-party technology. And the consent as a service, as Janne described, is more GDPR-related component, which we also have framed ourselves. So there is no third-party technology behind it. Technology itself is not very complicated. It's much more about how to create the process, how to make the process work, and how to implement it into client systems.
Very good. Thanks, Petri. Then moving on to the best cybersecurity team, and that's, as was mentioned earlier, certainly is one of the strategic cornerstone. Our employee churn have been below 10, so I think we have been rather successful in keeping the people with us and also getting new people on board. Some actions on this area, so we are working on to further implement our joint cultural base. Of course, that's one important action with the growing international and integrating the new units. Also increased recruitment capability. That's certainly needed to support the growth and obviously to find and recruit new cybersecurity professionals, and the best professionals is getting more and more challenging. 2 remote work locations were opened in Finland, so now we are also present in Turku and Jyväskylä in Finland. So a bit more coverage in the Finland market, and then also to show some of the results of our internal employee satisfaction survey, where on average we were 3.5 with the scale 1 to 4. So rather well, and what people rated high was the autonomy and purpose of work and pride of working for Nixu, which we also feel is important. Then outlook for this year, we have our medium-term goals of growing on average 15% revenue, and then the EBITDA margin to be above 10%, and what we are expecting for this year is that we are growing faster than the medium-term rate, but then the fast growth still eating also the profitability, so the EBITDA being lower than the midterm target. And the growth will be also this year driven by strong organic growth, and also, of course, the already made acquisitions in mid last year are supporting the growth rates in this years. And the factor relating to EBITDA was already very mentioned there.
And if I may add here, it's again good to remember that the lower EBITDA is due to the planned growth investments. So the kind of the actual operational profitability, meaning the discrepancy between the salaries that we are paying and the price that we are getting from the market, that's been quite nicely under control. So we have the capability of creating profits, but now it's the matter of investing that into growth, as has been our message for the past couple of years, and we still see that the market is in a situation where there is a very big opportunities to be gained in Northern Europe and expanding our footprint and so on. Now it's the time to do it. So there is a clear strategic intent on continuing on that track, and we have not set a clear guideline that when should this stop or so on, because we see that it's worthwhile continuing as long as we can grow with paces that are clearly above our estimates, so to say, or midterm goals.
Yes, thank you. So that was our briefing in short, and certainly now I think there's a good time to take questions, whatever you might have. So do we have any? Mikael, please.
Yes, Mikael Rautanen, Inderes. A few questions. First, you have made several acquisitions. If I look at the map, quite many new sites. What about the integration of these acquisitions? Is that something that you have already worked on, or is that something that is coming?
Certainly the integration work has started, and as was the example with Sweden, the 3 units now, they all work under the same brand. And for example, in our Stockholm, we have now where we and still have 2 offices, though they are now joining actually this month together to the one and the same office and start working more and more together. So certainly that work is moving on. But of course it takes its time. So.
And also in the Netherlands, they moved to one office.
Yeah, exactly.
Has this integration work affected your profitability, and do you expect it to affect your profitability in the future, in the short term, negatively? Of course, in the long run, it's positive, as we know.
Yeah, at least I think what was commented relating to last year profitability and internationalization eating the profitability, that's obviously one kind of item in that operation. So of course it takes some time to do the integration and taking some of extra effort from people and so on.
So this is Petri, if I may add to that question. I guess kind of as we stated, the growth initiatives are eating the profitability, and definitely these acquisitions are one of those growth initiatives as well. And when we consider this type of acquisition, obviously it would be nice to think that we just include the figures into our figures, but obviously the integration takes its toll, and I guess there's two ways that there is an effect. There is the added overhead effect, so we need people in people operations, in finance and so on that take care of the actual process of integrating processes. And then, of course, there's the other added effect of kind of the both company somehow altering their services and understanding what Nixu is doing and getting their people to know Nixu and services. So there is, of course, this type of elements included, and we see them as part of the growth initiatives. But obviously, as we've stated earlier, we still have now found that founding greenfields as a growth initiative is not how would I say, free or cheap either. So that cost, building the market recognition and so on, has its cost as well. And so far we've said to ourselves that we prefer acquisitions as a opening up new markets and building trust, even though the integration work takes its toll on profitability and so on. But once we believe that we are able to drive it under control still and make wise choices there.
Yeah, and I guess to add to that starting point, our integration is that we want to build one Nixu where we share the same values and ways of working and so on. So of course then it needs a bit more integration that you would leave the site kind of alone or as an external unit. But yeah.
Then on the CDC services, you said you have 19 clients now. How does that compare to your competitors? And if we look at Finland, how large is the market opportunity? How many of these clients are there in Finland that would buy these services? And then a comment on Sweden. How does the market for this kind of service look in Sweden?
If I may, Janne, pick up immediately from here. So when we are looking at the client base and the kind of the market share of the market and so on, it's good to remember that obviously in this market, in response and detection and monitoring, there are obviously different client categories, and there are of course different service providers towards different categories as well. We are targeting the enterprise level clients, so the larger larger entities, large companies, and in that regard, I would say that from those clients that have now changed a service provider and started in this, let's say, next wave of cyber defense centers, I think we are quite nicely positioned. Obviously, I don't have the figures from our competitors, so I really don't know their numbers. But our feeling of the market and those cases that we have been participating, our win rate is quite substantial, as stated earlier. So I think that's quite nice. And when we are thinking of the total accessible market in Finland, I would say that overall we are targeting the top 100 clients, top 100 enterprises, and of course some public sector clients as well. And that's like our target market. Like roughly, obviously, can be larger as well. And there are still quite a lot of companies that don't have any monitoring capability. So that's like still a untapped potential quite a lot in that regard. And the same applies to Sweden. Obviously, the amount of potential clients is still larger, and so on.
And then there is the IoT market for CDC.
Yes, and it's also good to note that actually most of our clients have now started with some limited scope. So we are not monitoring their whole environment. We are monitoring some part of their business processes or delivery or so on. And so there is right now we have more focused on getting new clients in than actually extending the existing clients. But that is at some point when we have the market more mature, then obviously we start looking towards extending the clients' monitoring capability and visibility, adding their IoT devices and all of that. So that's I don't see there's no lack of market, I would say. And then of course it's good to remember that once we have a CDC case where we see monitoring or where we can detect cyber breaches, they typically lead us to other consulting agreements with the client as well and consulting work. So that's like overall cross-selling opportunity.
Then a question on the general cybersecurity market, like on a global scale. If I look at it, it's there's a lot of M&A activity going on. Valuations are soaring. Venture capitalists are pouring money into the market. Lots of investment activity, new companies entering the market. Do you see that there's a risk that the competition will eventually heat up and there will be more competition and more difficult to make money in this market? And an additional question, how does that affect your M&A ambitions?
So yeah, if Petri takes over from here as well, I would say that obviously the case is as you described. There's a lot of venture capital money flowing in. Obviously, most of that money is going into technology companies, so selling some cool technology that will solve all of the world's cybersecurity problems, and that's sarcasm included in that sentence. I trust in our strategy of being close to the clients and building the intimacy and really building the client cybersecurity posture. And there actually isn't too many of that type of companies who are on that track. Most of the companies are focusing on some point solution towards cybersecurity. And I think actually that type of thing adds clients' complexity and the need to have experts who understand that what do these technologies actually do and how should they be implemented and so on. So there's opportunities. If we are talking about company valuations and the possibility for M&A, obviously we are not in a position that we can offer huge valuations for the companies that we are acquiring, and that hasn't been our strategy at any point. So what we are looking for are companies that want to join our family, want to join the story. They are typically appraising our culture, they are appraising our way of working, they are appraising our expertise, and they want to become part of that journey. They are not after doing an exit with the most valuation that they can get. And I think that's like a protective component in our growth strategy, that as long as we can find this type of expert companies, I think that's a protective path, and we have identified those, so it's not a limited market. I guess the maybe one big risk in this overheated market is that the salaries start inflating overall too much with these new entrants coming in and paying overly high salaries. I guess that is the kind of maybe the biggest risk associated with the venture capital pouring into the market.
Any other questions?
Hi, this is Hanna Raitanen. I will pick some questions from the webcast. So the first one comes here. What is your opinion why IT service companies like Tieto, Siili Solutions and Vincit are not competing with Nixu in the same market if the cybersecurity is an interesting business? It should be easy for software developers to enter the same market. What do you think?
Well, if Petri picks up this one as well, obviously Tieto is already competing with us. So Tieto has its own cybersecurity initiative, which also reported some figures. I think they were a little bit below 10 million euro for overall Tieto business, and I believe there's quite a lot of free sale of firewalls and other security equipment in those figures. Well, I guess what to answer is that this is a specific field. We are not in a position that we could now become a generic IT consultant building any systems, or we couldn't become a generic agile software developer company, and that's different skill sets, different talent, and I think there's also the brand value and the brand recognition of a dedicated cybersecurity partner. I think many of our clients are now buying this promise that they need a dedicated cybersecurity partner because they already have their Tietos or CGIs or other third-party providers, or they do have their software developers doing the digitalization. They want to have a partner who makes sure that the digitalization is done right. So that's our client promise.
Good. Then there is another question. Does Nixu take into account the interest of the customer size, its size, revenue, business area when pricing the cybersecurity services? So is the customer's financial risk for what they are purchasing cybersecurity considered in the pricing, or how do you price the services?
The different services are differently priced, obviously. So many services have different pricing components. There obviously still a large pricing component is the hourly price, where we are able to charge quite a lot of premium over standard IT consultancy. Then of course, when we are talking more about scalable services, that's more value added or value based service, depending on what we are monitoring and how complex is it and so on. We are not valuing the service in a way that, okay, is the client a financial institution or is it a church or so on? That's not the basis for our pricing, if I understood the question correctly. But obviously what we are delivering and what's the value of it towards the client, I guess that definitely is an increasingly a value component in our pricing.
Good. We don't have any other webcast questions, so do we have any questions in the room?
Thank you, Hanna. Mikael, please.
Mikael again. The CDC services, so the revenue was about 2.2 million last year. How many people do you have working on this product area or service area? I'm just trying to figure out how close to break even are you?
I guess we haven't given those numbers, but when it comes to the profitability of the CDC, that is certainly so that now we are taking the market growing very fast, and it is eating the profitability as well. So
it's still, I would say that it's profitable business. Yeah. Maybe not on the kind of the scalable profitability levels yet that we of course are saying that it will become. But right now we see that the market is growing so fast that it's again here a time to kind of take over the clients and bring in people who can help us to deploy the service to clients and so on. So that's where we are.
And are you seeing already that these CDC services are flowing new business for your consultants?
Yes, as I said earlier, this is definitely a cross-sell opportunity, and that was actually one of the key decision-making criteria when we started the CDC service. It was stated in our strategy that we need to get a better visibility into what is actually happening with the clients. So when we notice a breach, typically the breaches start some sort of development activities and there's just happening something. So definitely this is a element that we are now seeing when there is a breach detected at the client side, we need to start doing something also for that and so on.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. So any other questions? Any more questions in the webcast? No? So if no further questions, I'd like to thank you all present here and the ones in the webcast as well. So thank you and have a nice rest of the day.